Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will talk about the conversion between a fraction, decimal, and percent. To convert fraction to decimal is pretty simple. All we have to do is just take the numerator divided by the denominator. And if you have a mixed number, then all you have to do is just divide the fraction part of it and add to the whole number. For example, example number 1, we have 15 divided by 25. So you take 15 divided by 25 using your calculator. You have 0.6. So this 0.6 is a decimal equivalent of this fraction. So if you have a mixed number, 5 as a whole number, and the fractional part is 7 divided by 25, then all you have to do is take 7 divided by 25. You have 0.28. And to convert this whole mixed number into a decimal, then you are adding the 0.28 with the 5. So 5.28 is the decimal equivalent of this mixed number 5 as a whole, 7 over 25 as a fraction. So the next conversion we are going to talk about is between decimal and percent. So having a decimal to convert to percent, so let's define percent. Percent is more like out of 100. Okay, so you compare anything out of 100, then we call it as a percent. So it's a percent, the number is based on the number 100. So to convert decimal to percent, you multiply by 100, okay, and then you add the percent sign to the answer. So adding the percent sign to the answer is very important, okay, because this percent sign representing the percent. Because when you multiply by 100, you add the percent sign, it will balance everything out. Okay, so in a way that I want to emphasize the word equivalencies here. So in mathematics, if you perform some operation on one side of the equation, you have to do the same thing on the other side. Or if you multiply by, then you have to divide it by to have the exact same number again. So what we have to do in this case is, if you multiply by 100, okay, then you turn that number to make it bigger, and the percent sign has a meaning to that. That means percent is, if you don't want to use that percent sign anymore, you say 7.5 out of 100, then it will turn back to its original number. So let's talk about this example number 3. I have 0.075. I want to convert this into percent. So that means I multiply this number by 100. Okay, so I multiply by 100, I end up with 7.5. But 7.5 is not the same as 0.075. To make this whole expression to be equal to each other, then I have to add the percent sign to this, to my answer, right? So take 0.075 times 100, add the percent sign to the answer, will make it exactly equal to 0.075. So in a way, I want to remind everyone that if you multiply by 100, that means you want to express the number in percent. It means you have to add a percent sign. Without adding a percent sign, that means you just multiply that number by 100, and it doesn't mean anything. So adding the percent sign to this number, that means you presenting 7.5% as the equivalence of 0.075. Okay, so what I explained here relates to what we are going to do next for example number 4. So for percent, you convert to decimal. That means you divide it by 100 and you drop the percent sign, right? So you have 81.9%. So what does it mean by 81.9%? It means that 81.9 divided by 100. So instead of writing this percent sign, you convert it into divided by 100. Okay, so divided by 100 equal to 0.819. So 81.9% is equivalent to 0.819 as a decimal. So percent, in a way that we have to understand that is out of 100. So divided by 100. So if I say 7.5%, it means I would say 7.5 divided by 100 if I don't want to have the percent sign. So that's why when you convert decimal to a percent, then you need to multiply by 100, but you have to add the percent sign. All right. Okay. So not using the percent sign, then divided by 100. But you want the percent sign in your answer, then you have to multiply by 100, but you have to add the percent. All right. Okay. From decimal to fraction. So to convert a decimal number to fraction is very much depend on how many decimal places that you have in your number. So if you have 0.75, then you count how many decimal places that you have. You have 2 decimal places. This is 1, this is 2. So that means you will drop the decimal 0 point here. And because of the 2 decimal places, you divide it by 100. Okay, so 75 divided by 100. So we understand that 75% is like 3/4, right? So what does that mean? I can convert this into its lowest term, which is divide the top and the bottom by the same number, 25. So in this case, I end with the 3/4. So if you take 3 divided by 4, isn't that equal to 0.75? Okay, so 3/4 is the fractional equivalence for this decimal 0.75. So 0.75, in order for you to convert to 3/4, it depends on this step. So you count how many decimal places that you work with. 7 and 5, 2 decimal places. You drop all of this preceding 0 and decimal point, and you divide it by 100. And from here, you turn into its lowest term. Then you have to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 25. Okay, so for this example, again, I need to convert this 0.0145 to a decimal, from decimal to a fraction. It means that I'm not going to guess. Okay, so I'm going to count how many decimal places that I have after the decimal point. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 decimal places. So now what I do is I will drop this 0, and this decimal point I will write 0.145, but I don't need to write the 0 here because it represents 145 anyway, divided by 10,000 because I work with 4 decimal places. So this number, now I need to reduce the lowest term. So I know that both this number divisible by 5, so I divide both by 5. I end up with 29/2000. So decimal to fraction is a bit more complicated because you have to reduce the lowest term from the fraction, and you have to count how many decimal points that you work with. Okay, the number for the denominator, the placeholder for the zeros here depends on how many decimal points that you have in your numbers. All right. Okay, so let's go over this chart. I have this exercise for everyone to work on. And I have some full solution posted for everyone already. So basically, this chart works like this. I have this whole fraction here. I will ask you to convert this to decimal. So you write your decimal into this box, and then from there, you convert the decimal into percent. Okay, so with the decimal, I give you decimal. It means I ask you to convert from decimal to fraction. And then from decimal, I ask you to convert to percent. Okay, then I have this percent here, and this one I put the blue cover into it, so you don't have to do anything at this point. You don't have to do convert into fraction. You just have to take the percent, convert to decimal. Okay, and I think this instruction here is very clear, and I do have solution posted online for everyone to view, so I can show you where the solution is. So I can quickly go to my Blackboard. Okay, so if I go to Blackboard, to the courses that we have. Okay, so then I can show you where the documents are. Okay, so it will be listed in unit number 3, and I believe it's right here. Okay, so here's the lesson that I just taught you, And in here, I have the practice with the solution already posted for everyone. You see, so I would like you to make sure that you go over this, get all the number that I have done here, and check your own work and make sure that you understand what to do between the fraction to decimal to percent and percent to decimal and to fraction. And you see, I don't have to do anything in this blue color. And also here we have round final answer to 2 decimal places. That it means that you make sure that you round whatever you need to convert to 2 decimal places. Okay, don't forget it's a final answer. So if I ask you to convert from decimal to percent, your percent will have to round to 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places in this case, and then to a whole number. So it's more to ask you to practice the rounding part of it. All right, so let's get back to our lesson. Okay, so the next lesson I would like to go over with everyone is the percent base rate. Okay, so with percent base rate, we have to distinguish the difference between percent base rate and the ratio and proportion. So I would like to remind everyone that when you work with percent base rate, there is formulas for you to base on to work with. So before I go over this, the meaning of this triangle, I would like everyone to take a look at this formulas that I put down here for everyone. To work with percent base rate problem, okay, so percent is our 100, right? So the base is a number that you have to base on. Rate is more like a changing. It's just changing. So that's why they call percent base rate problem. So if you want to figure out certain unknown in this type of problem, there are 3 formulas that you have to use. So first formula is called the amount equal to percent times base. Then if you want to find percent, you take amount divided by the base. You want to find the base, you take amount divided by the percent. Okay, so that means in solving for this percent base rate problem, you have to identify these 3 elements. Okay, these 3 elements. You have to recognize which one is the amount, which one is the percent, which one is the base. And then you are going to fit them into what formula that you need to use. So do we need to memorize all of these formulas? So I summarize these 3 formulas onto this triangle. Okay, so if we take a look at this triangle, the top part is the amount. So I cut this whole triangle and I use the top as the amount into 3 portions like this. I cut the triangle into 3 portions. The first one I put amount, this one a percent and base. So if you take a look at the amount, if percent and base are side by side, that means they multiply with each other, percent times base. So if I want to figure out the base, okay, that means the amount here divided by the percent. You see, percent, base is amount divided by percent. If you want to find percent, it's amount divided by the base. So amount divided by the base. So if you don't want to remember the 3 formulas, you can try to remember the position of the amount, the percent, and the base. The amount on top, and these 2 side by side, it means that to find the amount, you take percent times base. If you want to find the base, it means amount on top. Here's a division sign here, so that means divide by the percent. Okay, so if you want to find the percent, it means the amount divided by the base. So that's the interpretation of this triangle in terms of these 3 elements. Okay, or from this triangle, you pull out the 3 formulas. So let's go over this example. So I'm asking everyone to find what is 18% of 320. So I can show everyone a trick how to translate this into mathematics. Okay, so whenever you see a number attached to this percent sign, so this has to be the percent. Okay, so this is the percent. And whatever comes after the word of is the base. So whatever comes after the words of is the base. So I have to have 3 elements in this particular type of word problems. So I already know what percent is. I already know the base. So what is the remaining element? Is it the amount? So the amount is the one that they asked me. So the what is here is the amount. And the amount is the hardest one to figure out. So usually you look for the one that easiest for you to identify. So you can identify 18% as percent, obviously, because you have a percent sign attached to it. And whatever comes after the words of is the base. So this one is the base. So then you have to find the amount, which is the question mark, right? So that means you are going to go to the formula, and the formula tell you that amount is percent times base. So you are going to use this first formula right here. But before you can substitute all of this into this formula to work with, you need to convert the percent into the decimal. So that is the very important part. All right. Okay. So you need to take 18% is equal to 18 divided by 100. If you drop the percent sign, you divide it by 100. So 0.18. Okay. So now amount equal to percent times base. And you are going to use this percent number. So 0.18 times 320. So in this case, I will have is 57.6. So let me write it down here so I have more space. So I will have 57.6. So therefore, you may want to conclude and give the answer is 57.6 is 18% of 320, right? Okay, which makes sense. Okay. So basically, in this type of problem, percent, base, and rate, okay, I use the word amount because amount somehow related to these 2 components here. Okay, talking about the rate sometimes it's hard to recognize, so I use the word amount so so that you can distinguish the difference between the percent and the base, because sometimes the rate can be mistaken as the percent. So therefore, I try to take that word out and use the word amount instead. Okay, so in working with this, amount seems to be the hardest one to recognize. The percent is the easiest one to recognize. The base is the easier one to recognize also. So only 3 elements that you have to recognize. If you already know 2 of them, that means you look for the percent, you look for the base, and the remaining one is the amount. Okay, since it's the hardest one to figure out. Okay, so now for example number 2, what percent of 45 is 9? Okay, sorry, it's 45, not 49. So what percent? So this one was already the percent, right? So the percent, they're asking for the percent with the question mark of 45 of the words. The number comes after the word of is the base. So this is the base. That means 9 is the amount. Okay, see, I tried to figure out the amount last, right? So I figure out the amount last. I recognize the percent right away, yes, because it's very easy to recognize. 45 comes after the word of, so it's the base. So they are asking me for the percent. So what you do is you go to these formulas, percent equal to amount divided by the base. So I will write it down, okay? Percent equal to the amount divided by the base. So 9 is the amount, base is 45, so I do this. 9 divided by 45, I will get 0.2, okay? But they are asking for the percent, but I have the decimal as the answer. Then your next step is you then convert 0.2 to percent. So from decimal convert to percent, you multiply by 100 and you attach the percent sign. So that means 20%. Okay, so 9 is 20% of 45, or you can say it as 20% of 45 is 9. All right? Okay. So let's work with another example. In this example, what I have is, again, I will ask you to recognize the easiest element. So 30 here with the percent sign, so this has to be the percent. Okay, of what number? The what number comes after the word of, so it's the base. And the base is the one that they look for, right? Okay, so the base is the one that they look for. And what is 4.5 now? Is the amount. So now I will write down the formulas. What is base equal to? Base is equal to the amount divided by the percent. But you just cannot leave the percent to work with. You need to convert that to a decimal. Okay, so 30% convert to decimal. So that means I drop the percent sign, I divide it by 100, so I should have 0.3. Alright, okay, so now what I will do next is I substitute the number in here. The amount is 4.5. The percent is 0.3. So you take 4.5 divided by 0.3, you end up with 15 as the answer. Okay, so therefore, you can say that 4.5 is 30% of 15. Yeah, if you think about that, it's really do make sense. 4.5 is 30% of 15. Okay, so let's go over this word problem. Okay, this word problem said that the student needs 70% to pass an exam containing 50 questions. How many questions must she get it right? Okay, so you probably encounter this type of word problem every day in your learning life, because you need to achieve certain average to pass the course, or to anyway, you need to achieve certain average for certain tests. You need to know how to figure this out. Like if you have like an exam or a test and you said, okay, my goal is I want to have 75% or 80% or 90%. So then what you have to recognize in this question is the exam contains 50 questions. Is it going to change? No, it's not going to change. So the 50% here, the 50 questions here, the 50 question is the base, because this doesn't change. Okay, so I can tell you that is you have to base on this 50 question in order to figure out your goal for the percentage of what you want to achieve. So this one is the base, and this 70 is obviously is the percent. So that means 70%. Immediately convert that into decimal. Okay, and then the amount is the one that you have to find, right? So the formula said that the amount will be equal to the percent times the base. So I will take 0.7. I multiply that with the 50. I should get 35. Okay, so therefore, the student needs to have 35 questions correct to obtain 70%. Okay, good. So if you want 80%, then you take 0.8 times 50. That means you have to get like 40 questions correct in order to obtain 80%. So I think after you have the solution, you may want to kind of think about it if it actually makes sense to you. Okay, so 70% is higher than 50%. So you probably realize right away that 50% of 50 questions will be 25 questions, right? So to get 70 is 35. So it really do make sense in this case. All right. Okay. So the reason I'm going over to ask you to see after you found the answer if it makes sense to you, because it applies to this question right here. A sales clerk has a commission rate of 3.5%. To earn 280, how much must she sell, right? So what you have to remember is this. This obviously 3.5% is the percent. So this is the percent. So I immediately will convert this into decimal. So I divide it by 100. So I will have 0.035. Okay, so now to earn 280. So that means at the end of the day, she wants to make that much, 280. How much must she sell? So she cannot sell 280 to get 280. She has to sell more, way more than this in order to get 280. So in the way that how much must she sell is the bigger amount than this $280. Okay, so this has to be your amount, and the one she has to find is the base. Okay, so because they have to base on what she sell in order to calculate her commission. So in that case, the base is the question mark, and this 280 is the amount. Okay, amount is always smaller than the base, right? So in most of the word problems that we are dealing with, the base is the biggest number, and then we a certain amount on this base, taken from this base, is the related to this percentage. Okay, so in that case, you have the amount as 280, the base at the question mark, the percent is 0.035. Then the formulas, what you have to use is the base equal to the amount divided by the percent. So then I will take 280, I divide it by 0.035. So in this case, if you take 280 divided by 0.035, you should have $8,000. So it makes sense. She has to meet the target of selling $8,000 in order to earn 3.5% of this 8,000, so then she'll be able to earn 280. Okay, so let's write a conclusion here. In order to earn $280, the sales clerk must sell $8,000. All right. Okay. So let me recap what we have done. Okay. So the percent base rate problem involving the percent, the base, and also an amount that related to this base. And to figure out this amount is very much depend on the percent. So the three formulas are given here for us. So we have to know which one to choose. Okay, so you have to know the right one to choose and apply to certain problem. So the trick here is, if you see the percent attached to a number, then it must be a percent. Any number comes after the word of, or it's a bigger amount, or the bigger number, then it's a base. And what you have to find in this case is the amount, because there's only three elements you have to look for: amount, base, and percent. So look for the percent and the base, and the last one will be the amount. Okay, and I have exercise for everyone to work on. Okay, so thank you.